Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Braiding Sweetgrass vlog. I've already been reading this one and just not had good opportunities to actually vlog. I'm about to make my April spread, so I thought we could chit-chat about that for now while I do that. And we're on a sprint right now, and I have forgotten how big I make my guys. So Braiding Sweetgrass is a nonfiction. I know somebody put this on the TBR during the Actually round, I believe. And I don't read a lot of nonfiction. It's one of my goals this year to read 25 nonfiction, really. And, or really, no, it's to read 10. 10 and then 25 is the bonus. So, but yeah, so this is a book that involves the relationship between indigenous people and nature and stuff. So very interesting, but I struggle to relate to it mostly because I am not a plant person. And so talking about the relationship and the care and stuff of plants and earth and things, and it feels a little very spiritual, very kind of religious in that way, and I'm not that type of person. I don't really have a good relationship with things like faith in any sort of sense. Like, obviously this is not about Christianity or anything, but just kind of, I don't even know how to really verbalize my feelings on it, other than that I'm just not really vibing with it. There are some parts of it that sometimes feel a little bit anti-tech, so a little Luddite. And I'm, I like tech. I like things that make my life easier, and like I have a more interest in things like, spreadsheets and stuff. And so it seems a little bit at times where the author is kind of shaming people for, not for letting go of their connection to the earth. And it's like, I can understand it to a point, but at some points it feels a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not pretentious, but a little bit like the author feels they are better than others and for their relationship, without any kind of compassion for how others grew up and how, oh, gosh dang it. Oh, I think baby needs to go outside. So it just at times has a bit of an arrogance to it. But not a lot. There's a lot of very informative, very moving stories of her past. Like, I really was invested. It's not like it's a narrative, but I found a lot of empathy for the the opening topics of how her family came to be where they're at, and kind of the history there. So I really liked those parts. The part where about defending a thesis to very, overly scientific minds and stuff was very good, and gave a lot of, I'm almost going to say give a lot of credence. That's not what I'm meaning. It showcased a lot of the issues in the world, and how indigenous people are treated and indigenous women are treated. So that was very important to see, and I think that was well done. I can't talk when I'm numbering, or I will get it wrong. A lot of back and forth, so I can't say that this is not going to be a 5-star for me, because I'm not like, oh, this is the best book ever, and it's not necessarily a 4-star either, because again, I'm losing my own kind of losing a bit of my attention, a little bit of my connection to it. I still think it's a very important book for a lot of people to read. There is some of the topic that I'm like, okay, I did know about this, so it's not wholly new information. But I think overall, like, if this wasn't on my 25 of 2025, I likely would not have picked this up myself, just because it's on a topic that I don't necessarily connect with. You know, I'm not a plant person. I'm not very much a nature-y style person. So yeah, that's where I'm at with Braiding Sweetgrass right now. We're almost halfway through it. It is extremely long. That's also kind of my main sources of struggling are with it, because it is so very long. And I'm just, at this point, I'm bored because of everything, and just, yeah, it's not necessarily something I have a great need to understand a lot of botany. I mean, I do, because I'm writing a little, you know, botany fictional book, but it's fiction and magic. So, there are things that I can learn from this book. I think there are things that anyone can learn from this book. But it's just a little bit too long for me, per se. I need scissors. Side note, I don't know if I'm fully enjoying all of the making of journals. But, you know, keeping organized as best I can. Like that. Well, and then I'll print my April stuff there. I don't necessarily have anything fully planned for April. But there we go. Okay. I need more tape, guys. Donate to my Ko-fi page so I can get more PET tape. Yeah, how you guys doing? We've got 10 minutes left on this sprint, but that's essentially where I'm at with Braiding Sweetgrass. I think it's fine. I think there's a lot of other people who will get a lot more out of it than I do, per se. But that's just because this is the type of person I am, and I don't necessarily like to feel shame over who I am as a person anymore, because I do enough of that, and I've worked to grow a lot into, you know, liking myself more. And when a book like this kind of comes along and decides I'm still not good enough, it's not exactly great for my mental health. Because I can only do so much as me, and this is not a talent that I was gifted. Wow, do you not want to come undone? A little bit of a guy like that. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to continue this sprint and continue making this journal, and I will hopefully finish this book today. I am hoping to. I have almost like 10 hours officially left, and I listen at 2.5 speed, so hopefully, if it wasn't a 25 or 2025, I honestly probably would have DNF'd this, just because of things. But like, again, it's not a bad book. It's just not for me. And that's okay. There's a huge amount of people that this book is for. I'm just not one of them. I don't know how people do this so aesthetically on camera, you know? I watch Joshi Korn all the time, and all of her stuff is just, like, so well done. And I know, like, she pre-plans spreads and things, but, like, her dexterity, man. The dexterity that she has that I was also not blessed with in life. Okay, anyway, bye. hi, we're back from walking dog. I hope you enjoyed the interlude. And we are latch hooking on this sprint, testing out a new microphone, and I'm hoping the sound is good. So I'm going to do this. Enjoy. Okay, so we have done another line of the latch hook. The sprint's almost over. I'm not going to have enough time to do another ones, but I've been listening more, and it's weird how this book is because I keep teetering on like, okay, good. I like, this is an interesting lesson, you know, different upbringing and stuff. But then it goes into another thing where it feels almost shameful of like the upbringing that I had. And that's mostly just like how I'm taking it and stuff, but also a little bit of envy that I didn't have this other upbringing, because like she's mentioning about celebrations and stuff, and her favorite thing is graduation because you really feel the community and you're sending these kids off. And I'm like, I didn't have that when I graduated. I was very much off and gone, and I didn't feel that sense of community. I've never really felt that, especially in America. Sense of community is not something that I think is something that comes naturally here. But when I lived in Japan, I saw that a lot more firsthand. And again, I was also envious of it because I just haven't had that life experience of feeling necessarily a part of the community. I've never had like school spirit or anything. I've never been that type of person. I have zero pride in my like where I've attended any school or just my history of stuff. It's just I've never felt that connection. You know, I've never had that like specific relationship with a teacher, but this line was a little bit too much for me, where she's talking about her student who's going to go like defend her thesis, I think, and how she's registered as a professor, but I've always told her the plant is her teacher and stuff. And it's like, okay, but you are her professor. Okay. Like some moments I'm just like, okay. And it's just because we're very different people. And I'm not this type of person. And I have conflicting feelings on how I feel about it. So if you're more of that type of person who feels much more connected to things like community and nature and stuff, this is your book. if you're like me, who is a solitary creature, who has learned, the lessons in my life have taught me to depend only on myself for the most part. It's an unlearning thing. And, exploring things with technology and stuff and growth, and it might not be up your alley. It's so weird. Like, I feel weird criticizing it because, like, this is generally, like, it's a very informative, very good book, but it's just not a book for me. It's not a book I'm necessarily enjoying, and so it's like taking me longer to get through it. I keep pausing to do something else, but that's where we're at, and I hope this microphone worked well. See, me with tech. I'm appreciating my tech and, crafting. But then, like, you sit here while you're listening to it and going, okay, so the yarn came from this, and this came from this, and okay. So I have, like, nature in my hand, but obviously I have not paid the proper respect according to the author here. So I'm now just in that sense of, okay, clearly I'm a terrible person. The way my brain works, I don't even like it, y'all. Hello, we are back. I had intended to finish reading Braiding Sweetgrass yesterday. That did not happen, so we are finishing it now. I've been listening to it all this morning. I took Paul on a big old W, and we have upped the ante. I am now listening at 3 times speed, and I'm doing fine that way. So that's the thing with audiobook listening with people who are like, how can you possibly listen that long or listen that fast? And I didn't always listen this fast. It's training. You train your brain to do this. I started at 1, just like everybody else for the most part. I got, over time, faster and faster. Like, when did I start listening to audiobooks? 2018? 2018 is probably when I started actually listening actively, because I was working at Whole Foods. And when I started working the e-commerce job there, I was there at 4 a.m. before everybody else. And I would start listening to audiobooks while I was there. Yeah, that's how I got started into audiobooking. And now it's just faster and faster. And like, somebody else I saw this was really interesting about how people read speed-wise with their eyes, and we read faster with our eyes than we do listening. And so I know that I read pretty fast with my eyeballs, but then I'm like, oh no, I'm getting faster. And soon I'll be supersonic speed. So yeah, I just spun my wheel. We're going to work on prepping our April journals. So that is where we're at. I still need to make my thingies. I'm just kind of like doing all of the main outlines. I think I only need to do the review, right? Because I've got task of the day, musts and maybes. I don't know if I'll keep doing musts and maybes. I don't know, because I tend to not fill this one in. So I think I'll put like maybe my goals here on the first page instead, and then we'll just do task of the day, the writing challenge, and then a review. Little review here, and then we'll work on reading journal. So I don't have long. I only have like probably 45-ish minutes left of listening. 39 minutes left of actual listening of my speed. It's an hour and 40 minutes of actual run time. But again, we're at 3 times speed, so let's continue, shall we? did it. We finished Braiding Sweetgrass. I have such conflicted feelings about this book. And the last time I spoke, I don't think I was saying anything of any value. So here's the thing. I don't hate this book. I think it's a very valuable book. I think sometimes the author doesn't allot for different upbringing. Sometimes the way that they wrote, not saying this was the intention, but the way that it was written at certain points felt a little superior, you know. I did like at the end with the story dealing with like the Wendigo and stuff. That was very interesting and eye-opening. I think a lot of the value in here is the overall message that we as people need to take better care of the earth, which is absolutely a true sentiment that I agree with. I think sometimes it's hard for me because of how I was raised and how I've grown as a person and stuff and what I've needed to do to, you know, be who I am. It's hard for me to relate to it because I just don't have that kind of relationship with nature, and I don't see myself being able to do that just because I don't do well with plants. I just don't. I enjoyed a lot of what this book did say, and there were just parts where I was like, okay, not for me. A lot of like the relationship with mother-child kind of stuff as a parallel, I can't relate to. I am not a mother. I'm never going to be a mother, in theory, hopefully. And so those kinds of things I don't relate to, and that's fine. I think there are a lot of people who would like this book, who would take away a lot more than I'm capable of. Sometimes it felt like it went on and on and on. It was a very long book, especially it's a nonfiction book, and I'm much more of I like a narrative more than I like nonfiction stuff. So it was a challenge for me to get through this book. Again, I feel weird reviewing a nonfiction book like this just because it's nonfiction, and so I can't comment on like character growth or anything. I can only like take the knowledge that the author is giving me and do something with it. But I don't necessarily have the skills to do that in my life, and nor do I have the time to acquire those skills. So I feel a little bit of like, I guess, shame and guilt that I can't do more to help just because it's not within my, what's the word I'm looking for? Bandwidth to do that. And I'm a very tech-based person. I'm a very indoor person. So it's hard for me to even really evaluate that. So I would not take anything I'm really saying as like a criticism or a judgment on this book. It's just not a book for the type of person I am. But if you are much more of a person who is connected to nature, who can garden and wants to help, restore and rebuild natural habitats, like absolutely commend you for that and would recommend you reading this book. I have a lot of envy for people who can do that, who can make beautiful gardens and stuff and keep them alive and have great care for it. I just am not that type of person. I just can't do it. It's not something I always try to think I can take care of a little plant, and I fall through. I get too distracted. I have too much going on up here and too much that I need to do growth-wise for me personally before I can be out in the world and doing more stuff that way, I guess. I don't know. Nothing I'm saying feels like it's making any sense, but the overall evaluation is like, it's a good book. It's just not for me. There you go. That was the second book I have now completed for my 25 of 2025. Hope you liked my random ramblings and weird footage and weird angles, and I hope that my new microphone system is good. Let's hope for the best. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Bye.
The little baby scissors, they're those little baby guys out here.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.